Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Futures Club podcast, where we come to chill and get our minds right. I am Judith Daniel, your host and owner of Juju Star Productions LLC, where we have an array of products designed to help and encourage and uplift and push you forward in life. If you want to know more, go ahead and click that link. But for now, sit back and enjoy the show. Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming back. If you listened to another one of my podcasts and you didn't give up on me, I appreciate that. So today we're going to focus on something else. We're going to get right to the point, get you in, get you out. Bada bing, bada boom, right? No, I'm just busy, but I wanted to make sure I did this. So what we are doing and talking about is going to be healthy boundaries. Now, let's just jump into the meat of it, because if you don't take and analyze yourself first and see about you and what you like and don't like, and then set your foundation stable in a stable manner, something that you are proud of, something that you are good with, you won't be able to set up any type of boundaries, any type of healthy anything, because it's going to waver with the wind. And when you're feeling like this is going to be your boundaries. When you're feeling like that, this is going to be your boundaries. Or with these kind of people, this is going to be your boundaries. But when you're with them or they or that, these are going to be your boundaries. You see what I'm saying? So if you're not good with you, these boundaries are going to be like a New Year's resolution. Here today and gone tomorrow. Okay. Now that we're all on the same page of being honest with ourselves about what we actually do versus what we intend to do. Intention is great, but if your outcome is never what you want, focus on the work that needs to be done in order for it to be successful. Okay. I don't know why I feel like I'm giving bad news. Boundaries are not to take away from your freedom. Boundaries are to give you mental freedom. Because if you know what you stand for, you're not going to fall for anything. And then you won't be kicking yourself the next day or being upset with the decision that you made. You understand? A boundary is for your protection. But a boundary is only good if you know what you want your protection to be. And the more that you have a clear picture of you, then you'll understand what your boundaries need to be and where. So the areas that I'm going to talk about, which I know there's many, many more, but just to be hitting a couple, it'll probably be somewhat topical. But I want to make sure to at least say there's more than just personal boundaries, because that's the one that we're most familiar with, you know. And a boundary is not a wall. A boundary is not an isolation of any sort. It's a, hey, I don't mind this being in my life. And it's also a, hey, I don't really want to deal with this in my life. Why? Because I said so. Because any reason why is valid. Your reason why is valid. It doesn't matter if anybody else can't understand that, or if they haven't been through something like that, so they don't know what you're speaking of, so you shouldn't have those boundaries because they don't understand and don't know. That's not what we do here. Here, we are learning to take care of self. And if somebody has a problem with the way you take care of yourself, unless you're hurting yourself, unless you're like abusing a substance and deteriorating and other people can see that, and you know in the back of your mind, I shouldn't be doing this. Unless it's something like that, you have to let your voice be the bigger voice for you to set your decisions. So there's personal boundaries. There's emotional boundaries. There's physical boundaries, work boundaries, as well as social boundaries. And the whole point of having these is so that you can feel more in control of your life and your relationships. And it will ultimately lead to greater well-being and happiness. So the things that you don't like, the things that you don't want there, those are all correct answers. Why? Because it's you and what you want for you. So in personal boundaries, we all know the one saying no when you don't want to do something, right? Now, even though we know that, we don't always practice that. Even though we know what's healthy, our intentions are set to, I'm going to do it. We just don't. Why? Because there's something about our foundation that's a little shaky. And we haven't fully committed to that being a part of our life. Like, because it sounds good. It's nice and healthy to be like, okay, I don't really want to do that. But then when it comes down to it, when you're in the moment of it, well, I heard my father say, don't be afraid of men in their faces. So when you are in that moment, because that's when all the final decisions happen, is in the moment. The prep before that is just self-talk. But if you can't follow through, let's go back to that foundation. Why didn't I follow through? Why? Okay, I knew that's what I really wanted, but when I got there, they ding, 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 ding. You let their voice be bigger than your voice. So what else falls under that category of personal boundaries? That can also be limiting the amount of time you spend with people who drain your energy. Some have heard it be called an energy vampire. But why though? Why can't I limit the amount of time that I spend with people who drain my energy? And it bothers me and affects me, and sometimes even physically. Sometimes I get physically upset. Because sometimes that's your family. Because sometimes that's who you grew up with. And people expect you to always be friends. Because sometimes people will down you if you go against the grain. You see why this isn't easy and everyone can't do it? But limiting the amount of time that you spend with people who are negative, that you spend with people who always have some adverse outlook, with people who always seem to just have a down day? If those are the people you are surrounding yourself with, when will you ever see the sunshine? When will you ever see the sunshine? When will you have a day like our fictitious morning in episode 7 or 8, whichever one was before this? When would you have time to enjoy that fictitious morning all day? And I really don't want to say that this excludes the workplace, because that is somewhere that you have to be. That is somewhere that you have to be that takes away from you being with your family or doing what you really want to do. Yes, you're getting financially compensated, but at what cost? How's your mental when you get home? Does it drive you to be angry with everyone around you when they did nothing wrong? But that person at work, because their voice was bigger than yours, it really sets you off. You see the things that I'm throwing in there? Those are the things that I want you to use when you reconsider what your boundaries are. Another one that falls under personal boundaries is not tolerating abuse of any kind, be it verbal, emotional, or physical. Sometimes in those workplaces, we have to endure verbal and emotional abuse. Why? Because we are choosing to take it. I know that may sound harsh, but everything falls back on your decision. You're like, but I gotta pay my bills and I gotta da 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 da. And this is the only thing you could get? And you're considering this for long term? And this is how you're treated in a place? That you're gonna have to go to some place, and this is what you chose to endure? What about thinking of adding some education? Well, I don't have money for school. Well, we also have YouTube and Skillshare and all these different platforms where you can learn. It doesn't have to be in a traditional college. It could be a trade. And then while you're at this job, while you are being verbally and emotionally abused because you feel like this is all you have, if you expand your mind, you'll start to gain knowledge and understanding and figure out, oh, I can do way better than this. And there's many different pieces of information. Even on YouTube, I learned how to change my tire. I learned how to change my headlight. I got information and I learned something. So now I can do better. Now, will I be able to work on your car? No, I don't want to go to jail for tearing up stuff. But I know it for me if I need something quick and no one else is there. You have to start understanding your worth. You are more than what any grade would ever say about you. And you can learn whatever you want to learn. So staying in places where you are being physically, verbally, emotionally abused, when you understand or you gain just a little bit more of that self-worth, you will stop that. You will leave. You will choose something else. Because you will understand that you deserve better. And no one can force you or tell you enough that you deserve better. It's when you come to the conclusion. So come to that conclusion early. And as people, we are strategic. We are knowledgeable. We do understand. And we can execute. And with the physical abuse, because I've been there myself, when you are tired of it, when you have had enough, you will leave. You will make a different decision if you have time to come to that conclusion. Unfortunately, a lot of people who are in a physically abusive relationship don't have time to come to that conclusion and do what is necessary. Find your worth quickly. Put that into one of your foundational blocks and cement it in. With our emotional boundaries, acknowledging and expressing your feelings in a healthy way is having an emotional boundary. Acknowledging that however you feel is the correct way to feel at that time. Why? Because that's how you feel. And it's okay. I know I dislike when I hear people tell other people who may have just had their heart broken or may have just lost a loved one, and they are told, well, it's done. What's done is done. Get over it. Why are you still crying about that? Do you know how long it's been? And that's still bothering you? What's wrong with you? Can I just say, for the record, speaking for everyone, there is nothing wrong with you. But because they have not been through that situation in your shoes, they can't relate. And they're not supposed to, because they're not you. But what you are supposed to do is understand that your voice is the bigger voice. And you can stay in that moment as long as you need. But when you learn why you go into those moments, why those things affect you in the way that they do, and the reality dealing with it, you won't feel bad about how you feel. Then you will understand that it's okay. And those words won't affect you. Now, acknowledging and expressing your feelings in a healthy way, those are two different things. When you acknowledge, you say, this is what is. I'm okay with this. When you're expressing your feeling, it's what you're giving to someone else, either verbally, in whatever form of communication, written, however you're doing. If you're texting, if you're actually talking to them, if you're writing a note or a letter, if you're sending an email. People think that in order for you to express your feelings in a healthy way, you have to do it in a way that's of their liking. That's not true. What is true is you being honest about the information that you're giving. And you're saying, this bothers me because you're acting like this and this and this. You're doing these things. I don't like it. And it needs to be fixed or stopped. And if someone says to you, why are you acting like that? Why are you yelling at me? Why do I feel bad about what you are telling me? It's the real question they should be saying. But they're not going to do that. So once you express your feelings, you put it out there, you've done it in a way that you feel proud of. Why? Because you took a moment to decide before you were giving the information out. And it wasn't some impulsive regurgitation of your emotions to someone else. You see the difference? You see the step that we sometimes miss, making a decision that we are okay with before we do all those things? See, having a stable foundation makes a critical role. It's a critical role in your day-to-day interactions. Also, not taking on the responsibility for other people's emotions or problems is a healthy emotional boundary. And I know you know when people come to you and they're like, oh my goodness, I can't even, I mean, you understand? And then you're sitting there like, no, oh my gosh. And either it's something going to be real sad, or somebody did something to somebody and they're angry with them and they expect you to be on their side at all times, no matter the situation, right or wrong. Because I'm telling you my problem, you're on my side. That's not how it works either. Why? Because you've been working on being honest with yourself. You've been working on setting those emotional boundaries and doing what is best for you. So I suggest when someone comes at you with their adverse information that's going on in their life, if you feel led to help. If they are really just dumping on you and just telling you your emotions or their emotions, and then when you start to speak, they're like, well, I don't need you no more. Without saying those words, but their actions and their verbal language is saying, okay, I'm done here. I don't really want to hear what you have to say. I just want to tell you. I just wanted to vent to somebody because I'm feeling overwhelmed. You better leave and learn to leave that stuff right there. If it's not yours, don't pick it up and carry it. Physical boundaries. Respecting your own personal space and not allowing others to invade it without permission. Yeah. One of the ones. And this is okay to do. When we are people of royal color, and our hair must be just on fleek. Because other people of non-royal color ask if they can touch your hair. Now, this is not a podcast dealing with only race, or like this is what our thing is. But we call zebras a zebra. And in this situation, this is absolutely annoying. And it goes back to what they think or thought they used to be able to do. And that it was okay in that time. As we were treated as, I don't want to know, I want to say zoo paraphernalia, but we were treated as animals, as a sight to behold, as if we were on display in a zoo or a museum, right? But that situation, having a physical boundary and saying, no, you cannot, and moving on with your day, not taking a second thought to how they feel about it, and walking away, and not taking that situation with you any further either. But saying no, letting that be your no, and then focusing your mind on something else. Respecting your own personal space. That means letting enter who you would really like to enter your space. And then the ones that can't, actually going through with the telling them of the no. See, we always have good intentions, and then when we get in that moment, for some reason, somehow, we become afraid of men in their faces. And the Father said, don't do that. So setting limits to physical touch or to a capacity of intimacy that you're okay with, and what you're telling them when you're on that date, you got to hold back a little bit. Why? Because you want to see. You want to see their character. You want to see how they operate, how they think. And this goes for both sides, right? You want to know who they are, without getting any of them telling you everything. You know what I mean? Because you want to see them in action, because they could say, oh, when I'm in a relationship, I'm like this and this, and it gets intense, and I'm only for that person, and I'm da-da-da-da-da. But you're trying to be with me, and that's not how you're coming. So what are we doing here? Oh, okay. Well, let me set up that physical boundary with you. That this is not going any further anymore. Why? Because I said so. You feel me? So once you come to the conclusion of your worth, again, then you'll understand that that is okay. And you won't feel bad about it. Prioritizing your physical needs. That is a healthy physical boundary. So what, you need to get some more sleep? You need to exercise? You would like to take a walk and ground yourself and just take a mental moment? That's okay to have free time by yourself. And it's necessary. Because sometimes with all the noise, we can't think. But again, knowing your worth, that's where we need to get to first. And then when you put those boundaries in place, they'll stick. So what about at work? How about we leave our work at work if we can? How about we set those realistic hours that really work for us and what we have to do? How about we go somewhere that we really want to be? But then also knowing that that stays right there. Also knowing that my work friends are not my real friends. So don't tell them all my business, because they don't really care. Setting up those boundaries. Understanding the dynamic and not just thinking that everyone that smiles at you is for you. Until they've proven themselves in a way that is acceptable by you. Communicating clearly. Telling them, no, I really mean no, I don't like that. Or saying, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. I would like to be involved. Because if you don't say something, how is anyone really supposed to know? They're supposed to know by that look you gave them. They're supposed to know because you squinted in such a way that they should have read me right. No, we have to actually speak what we want to be spoken and not just assume that people understand where we're coming from or the why or what we really want. And then if something is being asked of you that's beyond your skill level, simply say no, because I don't know how to do that. But if you would like to train me, right? This is you. If you would like to train me and cross-train me in a realistic way that I get all the understanding, I would be more than happy to help take that on. And people, they can't make you do something you don't know how to do. And then you're not given that old age, well, no, it's not my job. But saying things in a healthy way, where it puts the ownership in your court, but it puts the ball in theirs for them to come correct or to not come correct. But at the end of the day, we've done our part. And then social boundaries. Being selective about the events or gatherings you attend, right? Where I'm gonna go. I don't really want to go there because I know these people always be tripping out. But then your friend comes along and says, but they got $2 drinks. You see what I'm saying? Once you know you and you've done the work and got your foundation in order, when you say no, that'll be a no. When you say yes, that'll be a yes. And people can depend on that. This also runs into kind of not feeling obligated to respond to every text or social media message immediately. Not being so, oh, I gotta say something right now or they're gonna feel a type of way. I have to blah, blah, blah because they're going to feel. No, I'm in the middle of something. As soon as I get done and I feel ready to respond, I'll respond. Why? Because my time matters to me too, and I just can't get to it. And if you can get to it, and that's what you want to do, then by all means do it. But don't let it turn into a I have to or they will situation. Because now they're building boundaries for you. Saying, hey, when I reach out, I better get a response right away. You see? And then you're like, okay. Why? Because you don't want them to feel a certain type of way. And again, these setting the boundaries is not easy, but you have to make sure that is the boundary that you want to set. And in order to make sure that that is a boundary that you want to set, you have to be good with you. Everything comes back to an understanding of you. Everything is going to be up to your final decision. And if it's not really your decision, it's someone else's decision, it makes your foundation shaky. But if you've taken that good advice into consideration, and it's something that, yeah, I do like that, because you like that, then by all means, do it. But just make sure it's because you want to. That also goes right in hand with declining invitations or requests that you really don't want to go. Because what? It might not interest you. That might not be how your morals and values are set up. I just am tired and I don't want to. Because I know what I have to do the next day and this would interfere with my sleep. whatever reason you have, it's valid. But it all comes back to when you are setting those boundaries, and I can't reiterate this enough, do it because you want to, and that's how you want it to be. Because these are your boundaries. These are things that you are putting in place, and they should be things that you find acceptable and can be proud of. Not something that puts your reputation in a shaky place. Not something that might be damaging to your future in the long run. But we've found our worth. And according to my worth, these are the boundaries that I'm setting up. Why? Because I'm more complicated than most. Or because I'm not as complicated as most. Doesn't matter the whys. It matters the what do you want to do? I don't know why I felt led to do that one today, guys. But we have to protect our mental at all times. And in order to protect your mental, you have to know what you're protecting. And that goes back to you knowing you, understanding who you are so that you can make the decisions that won't put you in jeopardy later of having an emotional breakdown, of being overwhelmed. Because this is something that you wanted. And there's way more peace when you're on the path that you decided to be on than what you may have been forced or thrust into. And if you can't put up boundaries because you don't understand how you feel about you, and you need somebody to talk to, and you need help getting led in the right direction, I do have private life coaching sessions where we can walk through the whys and help determine who you are and what you prefer. And you are put back in the driver's seat of your life because that's where you always should have been. So you can go to futuresclub101.com and also check out the information on our group coaching sessions from my book. It's where we're taking the lessons from the Life Transformation course, Success Starts Now, happening in July, probably within the next 2 podcasts or so. In the next few days, I will have that date solidified, but I'm checking my schedule. I'm making sure that I can do it, and I want you to be able to have time to complete the prerequisite, the vision board course. That's found right on the website. So if you have any questions, any concerns, if you want to make a comment, I'm going to leave those open because I want to see how you took that in. And again, all good information, good advice is taken into consideration. And we want to leave the negative somewhere else. You know what I mean? We want this to be a positive space, an open space for men and women. Any questions? Let me know. You know where to find me. But until then, deuces. As always, thank you for joining us again for another episode. We hope you enjoyed yourself, but the best way to know is if you leave a comment or you send me a message and you actually let me know. If you have any questions, I would love to be able to answer those on the next episode, so go ahead and leave me that as well. But until next time, just know you are worth it to be wherever you want to be.